Welcome to Run With It, the podcast that brings you business ideas from established entrepreneurs. Each episode, you'll hear a new business idea and the exact steps our guest would take to get started. Follow through, and you can earn a free mentoring session with today's guest and potentially a business partnership. Here are your hosts, Chris Justin and Ethan Janney.
This is Chris Justin.
And I'm Ethan Janney. And today on the show, we have Richard Bitton. He is the CEO and co-founder of Revitize. Revitize is a one-stop shop for customer communication, lead gen, and reputation management. It allows you to leverage your happy customers and quickly acquire referrals, reviews, and repeat business. He previously founded Alpha Solar. He grew up in Idaho and started doing door-to-door sales at 15. He's a graduate of Brigham Young University and currently resides in Lehi, Utah, aka the Silicon Slopes. Richard, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Good to be here.
Very cool.
Yeah, we're very excited, Richard. You're leading this super fast-growing company in Revitize. I've known you for a little while now, and it's been very cool seeing that growth. If people want to learn more about what you're up to, they can visit revitize.com. We'll also talk more about that at the end of the episode. But right now, you've got a new business idea that you are dying to share with our listeners. So let's kick things off. Tell us about a problem that you're seeing in the world today.
Yeah. So like I mentioned previously, I have about 4 or 5 ideas across all different levels. Some of them are more built for startup entrepreneurs, others for guys that have more experience in the game. Probably the one that I think would be most beneficial for the podcast would just be just a residential window cleaning business. I think there is pretty massive opportunity here. I think it's a convenience issue for most residential homeowners. Most of them don't want to spend their entire Saturday out on a ladder washing windows. In fact, I did that last Saturday myself, and it was miserable. I lost about 4 pounds because I was sweating so bad. I spent about 3.5 hours doing it. And
let's be clear here. We can see you on video. This is a skinny guy. He doesn't stand to lose any weight.
I fluctuate. Give me a few months, and I'll be about 20 pounds more. I think really it's a convenience thing. I think most homeowners don't want to spend their weekends doing it, and I think it's a pretty dang profitable business from the entrepreneur perspective, just because there's not a lot of costs associated with getting it going. So,
yeah, and I think this is a great idea. Sometimes on this episode, we were talking earlier, on this podcast, we have ideas that are very big. And Richard, you've got those as well. We talked about having you on here a second time, but I think it'd be beneficial to have ideas like this one where pretty much anyone can start. There's value out there. It's and you can go grab it. So
I would say also on that point, we kind of get disconnected a lot from the media we see around businesses from actual value generation. We see these huge businesses, billion-dollar businesses like, Twitter or even Tesla, which everybody admires as a great business. They're not profitable. They're not making money. And it's hard to make a real connection to value. So this one is a great one. And it also complements your experience just as a young person creating businesses from scratch. And the fact that you understand them at a basic level is probably how you got to where you are today.
Yeah.
You were telling us before the episode that you got your start at the age of 15 doing door-to-door sales. And it sounded like that informed this idea a little bit. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so not sure why my parents let me move down to San Diego with my brother when I was 15, but during the summer, I would go down. My brother owned a pest control company in San Diego called Smart Pest Control. And yeah, went down for the summers. All my buddies were at basketball camp. I decided to go and make a little money instead. So I'm out there pounding doors with a bunch of 20-year-old guys or 20 to 25-year-old guys. Yeah, a couple of massive benefits. One, I learned how to really work from a young age. I was able to take a lot of rejection, learn how to handle that rejection. By the time I was 18, I was, competing with guys that had 5 to 10 years of sales experience in the real world. I served an LDS mission in Costa Rica for 2 years when I was 19. And obviously there's plenty of rejection that comes with that. So that prepared me pretty drastically for that experience as well, knocking on doors. But I think one of the big things was, that independent contractor mindset of I create my own results, I create my own success, totally is what has driven me into starting my own business. I got home from my mission in Costa Rica, ran my brother's sales program. It was a door-to-door sales program. We did a few $1 million in sales over the couple of years just in pest control, just knocking doors. And if you can go out and pound the pavement on a July day that's 110 degrees, you can do a lot of things. And I think that creates a lot of confidence, but it also created awareness that there is a lot of money to be made in these industries. And that later evolved into my solar company, where we had a residential focus, had about 36 sales guys on the doors going out in Vegas and here in Utah. And I think we did just about $4.5 million in sales in our first year with that venture. So, and all door-to-door generated. We tried to take a little bit different approach. I think that industry has somewhat of a negative connotation to it. So you just have to make sure you're hiring high character, trustworthy people. You're putting the right product out there in front of people. But I love it because it's an independent contractor type job. And I think moving into the Windows conversation, it's actually a much simpler value proposition. You can get those 16, 17, 18-year-old kids out there. They can go make $20,000 to $25,000 over the course of the summer, whereas if they go work it in and out, they're going to make $8,000 or $9,000. They're learning a lot of these ethics that are going to lead them to success later on in their life as well, and it's solving a lot of different problems as well. So,
yeah, thinking about the career arc that you've had thus far, it seems like you've just constantly layered these skills on top of each other. You learned a set of skills at the age of 15. About how to handle rejection, to knock on doors in a way where you're adding value to people and they're not wanting to slam doors in your face, right? Those are skills that will stick with you for your life, that will really have helped Revitize. And it sounds like this idea that you're sharing with window washing would be a type of idea where people would develop those skills as well.
Yeah, and I think it takes. So I think there's kind of a fundamental disconnect right now in that industry. So you have these window cleaners that are generally very blue collar focused. They're not marketing guys. They're not sales guys. They just want to go out and clean windows. So they throw ads on their local Craigslist or Facebook, whatever, trying to drum up jobs, or they have a website. Maybe they're putting a little money into SEO, but they're not marketing savvy people, generally speaking. I'm sure there's some exceptions to the rule there. So I think it's about bridging that gap and getting the people that know marketing with the people that just want to go out and do their job, and then making everybody's life a little bit better because everybody's kind of in their happy place.
Let's take a step back here and talk about the problem a little bit deeper. Personally, I've never paid for window washing, so it would be helpful for me to hear about what are the type of customers who are looking for a service like this? How often do they purchase? Yeah, talk a little bit more about that.
I've got an answer.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll interrupt. So I just bought a condo in Chicago. We've got this little building. It's 3 or 4 stories and maybe 30 units or something like this. And the windows are filthy on the outside. It's a cute little old building. And I literally had said earlier to my partner, like, okay, we should call the condo association and see if we can get some window cleaners in here and go out and do the exterior. I couldn't clean them because it would be dangerous. You'd fall out the window. I'd have to get a big ladder. But if somebody just has a ladder or even they want to go a little bit higher tech and have some sort of lift or something. But yeah, the ladder, a bucket of clean soapy water, some good materials for washing and drying. It's pretty low overhead. And to have those nice, clean, clear windows, it's just refreshing. It makes you feel better about your life, I think.
Yeah, it totally does. Everybody likes it. It was funny because we were like, we should probably go clean our windows this last weekend, and we did. And it's like, oh, I can actually see the mountains again. This is nice. You don't even. A lot of times you don't even realize it until you clean it, and then you realize, holy cow, this is nice. But And for you, the inconvenience is absolutely there. Imagine for a 70-year-old lady or an 80-year-old lady, they're not going to go climb up on a ladder and go get their second story windows, but most of them are very pristine and particular about how their home or their residence looks. So really, I think it depends on how inconvenient it is for the homeowner. If they're wanting to teach their 15-year-old son how to work and send him out to clean the windows, then it might not be a great value proposition. But I think a lot of people really value time. And I think the value proposition there is big. But I also think, generally speaking, it's going to be a middle to upper class target demographic that you're really going after. Most people in the lower class aren't really going to be looking for it. So,
how much do you think someone would pay for a service like this, and how frequently?
Yeah, so I know I have a friend. They have about an 8,000 square foot home. They spend $500 twice a summer to do it. It really depends. My last home had 60 windows on it. So for a home like that, where you charge per pane, depending on how much you're charging, I think generally it's going to range between $2 to $4 per pane. So if you're charging, $4 per pane and each window has 2 panes, then that's $480 for my last house. But I'm sure it's something that can be negotiated. I think they're really good margins just because, like Ethan was mentioning, there's really low overhead. It's really about what the cleaner is willing to charge, just because you're paying for soap, you're paying for a few materials, and you're paying pretty high workers' comp just because it's a more dangerous position. But for the most part, I think you could charge as low as $1.50 per pane and really make good sense out of the financial end of it.
So, question about interiors. Is it just exterior window cleaning? Is it interior? Did you have
generally
thoughts on that?
speaking, the focus is mostly on exterior, but I think there's a lot of window cleaners that do interior as well. I think generally it's a little bit cheaper for the inside windows if they want those cleaned. I think that's kind of a standard within the industry.
Yeah, it could be a nice upsell.
Yeah.
I'm going to clean the outside. Oh, you want to just come in and clean on the inside, so everything's...
We'll do a 50% discount on the inside if you want or something. So
yeah.
Do you have a sense for how many people are looking for window cleaners in a month, for example?
I don't. So my focus would be more about creating the need through a door-to-door sales program. Because it's the same thing with pest control. There were a lot of people that were not looking for pest control, but after talking with a gentleman on their doorstep for 10 minutes, they were sold on getting pest control. I think it's about creating that need, which I do think. I think if people have enough financial stability, and if there is a value placed on time and conserving that time, then I think the market is actually pretty massive, just because every house has windows.
So, Chris, would you pay someone to clean your home windows?
I guess I would, and it depends on. I'd be especially more likely to do it, honestly, if it were a young person coming up and they were trying to make some money over the summer, and I saw that, I would say, yeah, I'd be more likely to encourage that type of entrepreneurial spirit. And I think a lot of people, obviously, we're kind of in this world, and we talk about it a lot, but I think that there are a lot of people who aren't in this world who like to encourage industrious, hard work and would be willing to do that. Not so much, not out of pity, but because they think it's the right thing to do.
I think you actually just nailed why this concept, I feel like, would be so successful. So I think the goal is, I'm not going out looking for 30 to 40-year-old people to go out and sell this door to door. You go get high school kids that say, I'm looking to raise money to go to college. That type of mindset is a door-to-door person. And they go out, and I love this industry because it's very simplistic. I've sold solar, I've sold pest control. There's a lot of companies that sell home automation and security systems door to door. Those are more sophisticated value propositions that aren't built for a high schooler or, maybe a freshman in college or that type of thing. So I think the goal is you go get some kids, they go around, they say, hi, my name is Jim. I'm trying to earn money for college. I was wondering if we might be able to come out and clean your windows at some point this next week, right? Most people, they're going to get behind the emotional side of that, even if they don't care that much about their windows. I think there's a really easy sales opportunity. which obviously creates more work on the back end. So,
yeah, I think that's really powerful. There was a company that a lot of my friends were involved with growing up, College Pro Painters, which I think it's along the same lines, right? A lot of younger people who are looking to earn some money for college, and painting it's honest work that people can appreciate, right? You see it as it happens. So this sounds very similar to that, and I think it could work really well. When you talk about market size, and we talked about kind of creating your own market here, do you envision this purely as a local business, or do you see that potential for it to expand?
I think it could be created into a rather large local business. So kind of step number one would be going and creating partnerships with window cleaning businesses, people that are just looking for jobs. They're willing to take them, finding out exactly what they're willing to do from a volume perspective and what they would be charging for that work. Forming those relationships, and you don't have to hold yourself. I mean, if it's a one-man show, that's a company, you don't need to have an exclusive relationship with one window cleaner. Maybe you go and find 3 or 4 window cleaners within a market. You form a relationship with all of them, and then you say, we're essentially going to feed you jobs. I need to see your calendar, and then we're going to schedule these for you. This is the rate that you will be paid for each of these. So you form those relationships, then you do the recruiting on the other side, which I think you go tell an 18-year-old kid that he can make $20,000 over the course of the summer if he goes out and works pretty decently hard, without honestly a lot of sales skill, just being able to learn how to do the very basics and estimate how much they would need to charge for a job. And then you're essentially that person right in the middle that says, okay, I'm just the coordinator here. They send in, maybe you probably have a software doing that, honestly. I would think a kid could go out and sell easily, if he was going out for 6 to 8 hours a day, sell $1,000 worth of window cleaning a day. So you're paying him 20% commissions on anything that he brings in. So he's making $200 a day. Over the course of 100 days over the summer, that's $20,000 as an independent contractor, right? Then your window cleaner, maybe he wants to take 50% of the revenue that's coming in from the bid. He's got all of the overhead. He's got all of the costs on his side. My goal wouldn't be to get into the actual window cleaning. My goal would be to be the mediator here. So he's taking 50%, kid's taking 20%. That leaves 30% in the middle for being the orchestrator and putting everything together. So really, the business would be more focused about recruiting talented kids. Now, to answer your question, I think that could be something that's scalable across a lot of markets. It really depends on who you're trying to target. If you're going after high school kids, maybe you do. Maybe you just have a recruiting effort going, from here in Utah, focusing on southern Utah and central Utah, northern Utah, just having a little bit of a program to be able to do the recruiting there. The cool thing about it too for these kids is it could just be an independent contractor job. So if they don't want to work for a week, great. Like, we're not going to put any time stipulations on you. Whatever you sell is yours though. And that allows these kids flexibility. A lot of them want to do sports camps. They want to do other things. But at the end of the day, for this type of value proposition, they're the best type of salesman. Putting out a very well-versed salesperson to sell windows isn't even going to be as effective as an 18-year-old kid that's trying to earn money for college.
That makes a lot of sense.
And in your model, it's the kids themselves that are door-to-door sales are also doing the cleaning at another time? Or is it different?
No,
Okay.
You're just connecting them with companies that are professionals that already do this, and then you're just bringing in those leads and then feeding them off.
Got it. Yeah, and this for me really points at your mindset, because I'm Revitize. What do? You help people manage their business, their clients, their relationships, to sell more, to get more business, to manage that relationship. So I can see. It's almost like inserting just a similar model into a different industry, which is a great way to think as an entrepreneur.
What do you see as the hard part of this business? It sounds great. It sounds like you've got most of the pieces figured out, if not all of them. Where does it get hung up?
I think as long as you're very detail oriented when you're going through the initial phases of making sure that you just have really streamlined systems to pass off the leads and make sure everybody gets paid appropriately, I think that's really important. If you have the wrong systems there, that could be a bit of a headache. I think recruiting, you have to learn how to recruit. Yeah, I think recruiting is the biggest thing. Really, that's your business. Is you're just learning how to recruit lots of good independent contractors to be able to go out and promote.
Would you envision someone like yourself who has a lot of door-to-door sales experience? I'm picturing that person needs to go out with these younger people at first, at least to show them the ropes, or do you think that you can just send them on their own?
Such a simple sale. I think you could literally bring a group of people into an office for an hour, do some role plays, just do some very brief training and say, all right, go get them, Tiger. And they would be able to figure it out within a day. With solar, it was not that way. We had a very detailed value proposition. We were putting together financing. We had to understand all the lending aspects. We had to understand, solar itself is pretty complicated. There are some door-to-door industries where you have to have a very detailed training program, whereas with this, I do not. I think you just have a weekly meeting once a week just to kind of check in with guys and see how they're doing, and then offer training and allow people to come in and share their insights from the past week as to what they do and build a little camaraderie there.
One thing that comes to mind is there may be a little bit more fear from younger folks about actually going door to door. And you talked about getting over that fear of rejection is one of the most valuable things you can develop. What about selecting for people that you think can get over that hump?
Yeah, and I think you do. You have to be, if there's a kid that's just completely antisocial, he's obviously not going to be at the top of the list as far as recruiting for something like this. Generally speaking, in the past, I found that kids who have done athletics or have really learned that competitive edge or have proven that they can go out and work in adverse conditions and do things in tough situations. And when you're dealing with 18-year-old kids, that's not a ton of kids that have been through those types of experiences yet. Most of those kids don't go through those experiences until later on in their lives. And so, yeah, it partially is. It's about finding the right kids and finding the right groups and getting them excited about it. And if some of them are scared, you could hire essentially a manager that goes out with each person their first few days to make sure that they're feeling comfortable with everything, makes it fun and easy and exciting.
So I wanted to go back. You had brought up the idea of workers' comp and things like that having to do with washing the windows. And when we were talking about it at that point, my thought was, he's going to employ the young people to go up on the ladders and clean the windows. And I was kind of wanting to bring that up. So that's not happening, which is great. It makes it a lot easier. So really, you're not employing very many, if any, people, maybe an office manager to take calls or something to help coordinate things. But really, these are contractors, they're salespeople, they're just representing your business in a sales capacity, and you're not really having to deal with liabilities and benefits and stuff like that, right?
No, absolutely. So you have the window cleaning business that's taking on all of that liability. They're already used to that. They've already done all the groundwork for that. Like I said, you're just the orchestrator, and then you're just putting together a program of independent contractors to go out and then promote. You can't, where they're independent contractors, you can't say you need to be out there from 8 to 5 every day. There are some companies that do those types of things.
Right.
But you just make it, you make it heavily incentive based. Once you hit 100 sales, we'll send you on a trip to Hawaii. Those types of things get people very excited, or we'll give you a bonus once you reach X results. And you create a program that's highly structured to motivate them and offers good upside with the commissions. And you'll find that they'll find time to get out there and make sales for sure.
Yeah, and just to raise people's awareness around this, because even as someone who's in business, I wasn't aware of some of these things until being in it for a while. Yeah. There's issues here with subcontractors versus employees. So some of the comments that he's making are informed, and you would have to research this a little bit yourself, depending on how much information we're able to give you in the episode. But this is one of the details. If you want to call someone a contractor for your business, you can't define their hours. You can't. There's certain things you can and can't do. And my sense is the more that I hear you speak about it, the more I seeing that you actually understand that and understand just the basic stipulations you have to take in order to say, hey, listen, you're a salesperson. Listen, if you want to go crazy, you could make a ton of money and you can work as much as you want, but you also are flexible. We're not going to tell you got to come in and go out at a certain time or show up at an office or give you a regular.
But we will offer you these bonuses,
incentives.
These incentives if you hit these targets. So therefore, it makes sense for you to put in a good effort. Essentially.
Exactly.
Let's come back to something that you had brought up earlier, where you talked about a differentiator for this business, something that existing companies are lacking. Obviously, this will be local, depending on different regions. There may be some companies who are doing SEO better, or some of the other aspects of the differentiators you want to talk about. But tell us about what you see as the main differentiator between what we're talking about here and a competitor.
Yeah, really, it's just bridging the gap and putting marketing and sales with companies that don't know that game as well, and they're more focused on the blue collar side of the business. And I think most people get into this and they start trying to do it themselves. They try and do the sales themselves, and then they try to do the cleaning themselves. So they find that they're very mixed in their approach. It's the same thing in any business. I mean, with Revitize, we intentionally have setters and we intentionally have closers, because if the closers are focused on setting appointments, that really distracts from their ability to hone in and perfect their craft on what they're good at. And you just have to really compartmentalize these things. And so we're not trying to innovate. We're not trying to change the way anything is done. I mean, one window cleaner is probably going to be just as good as the next. As long as I have clean, shiny windows at the end of the day, I'm happy. And as long as you can perform that job, that's a very simplistic task to be able to do, which alleviates a lot of the headaches with this business. But really all we're doing is bridging the gap between how to get this thing sold and how to get it cleaned.
This could be a good time to talk a little bit more about Revitize, because I would love to hear a little bit more about those sales and marketing tactics that you would use. And I know you're in this world day in and day out with Revitize. Perfect. How would you apply some of what you've learned from Revitize to this business?
Yes, we actually have a number of window cleaners on the Revitize platform. So Revitize is mainly focused on customer-driven marketing. So once I've actually acquired that customer, now I'm focused on mainly three things. One, can I get that customer reviewing my business? Two, can I get them referring my business? And three, can I get them repeating faster than normal back to my business, right? Those are the three things. So we're not focused on initial acquisition. That would be the door-to-door program, right? Now we've acquired that customer. We've come out, we've cleaned their windows, we've swiped their credit card, they're a paying customer. 67% of purchase decisions are now being affected by online reviews, right? Google being first and foremost. So it's really important to build a strong Google presence. Because even if I am a door-to-door sales program, a lot of these people before an appointment, they're going to vet you online. They're going to look at reviews, those types of things. So having a really strong presence there is very important. We simplify the process to acquire those reviews, so we can send them out those invites via text or email. 98% of texts are read within 10 minutes, so we heavily recommend businesses are sending out review invites via text. So they click on that link, it's going to take them right to Google, right to Facebook, wherever they want the review. We generally recommend until they have 500 reviews, they pound the rock to Google just repeatedly. So we've got that review. Well, the cool thing about Revitize is we're a very omni-channel platform. So I can send out a text, I can send out an email, I can drop a voicemail into the customer's inbox. I can send them a handwritten letter or a pen-written letter on their birthday next year. And all of these things are tied into one sequence. So if I'm a window cleaner, maybe I send them a review invite right after purchase. And then 3 days later, I want to let them know about my referral program, right? So we drop another text in. It says, hey, Jim, did you know that we'll give you a $20 gift card if you refer a friend to us? Click the link below. It will track all your referrals for you. And as soon as your referral signs up for an appointment, we'll send you a $20 gift card via text. So they can send out gift cards right through the platform. We manage all of those types of interactions and track all of those referrals. Every time a new referral comes in, they get an email as well as a notification. Maybe I want to get maybe my average sales cycle for window cleaning is 12 months. Okay. If my sales cycle is 12 months, how do I get customers back between 6 and 9 months? That alone will double my revenue, right? That's a huge thing that businesses miss out on. It used to be in the 1990s, I'm a carpet cleaner. I clean somebody's carpet. I expect them to call me back in 12 months. Well, that doesn't happen anymore, right? There's 5 other carpet cleaners that are better at marketing than you. They're all going to be trying to take that customer on some type of promotion. A lot of that loyalty is starting to fade. And unless you have communication with your customers, there's no way to make sure that that loyalty is remaining and that they're coming back on a consistent basis. So within our platform, you can create promotions. You can drop in a voicemail after 9 months that says, "Hey, it's been 9 months since we cleaned your windows. Just wanted to let you know we missed you. If you give us a call back this week, we'll go ahead and take 15% off on your next cleaning. If you have any questions, give me a call." So you can do that, or you can send out a digital coupon to get them back faster, those types of things. But that continued customer communication and making sure that you're staying top of mind over an extended period of time is what's going to keep them coming back to you over the long term, and then getting them to review, refer, and repeat.
So basically, the window company we're starting is going to be a client of Revitize.
Absolutely. That's the only reason I'm talking about it. No, I'm kidding.
I love that you shared this, because it's very clear that you've internalized all of these very important concepts. What are the key things that you need to hit on in order to make this business successful? They're just obvious to you, right? Yeah. And you just spouted this off, and you're living it every day, and it shows.
Sure.
I think that it could be valuable to even get more granular on a stepwise. Okay, this is someone listening to this podcast. What are the steps? What exactly are they going to do right now to get this going? And again, you know this so well that I think you're going to have to explain concepts a little bit in smaller chunks for us.
I'll rephrase it just to say, let's say I had 2 weeks to get a good start on it, and come back and say, "What do you think? How's this looking? Am I going in the right direction? What would you tell me to do?"
Yeah. So probably, I don't know how much it costs, depending on the state. In Utah, I think it costs $70 to form an LLC. Once you're sold on the idea, go ahead and get your business set up. You're not going to lose much, and it might be that commitment step you need. A lot of people go into the R&D phase, and they're like, "I need to research this for 6 months before I go start the business." And in all reality, in 6 months, you could have a couple 100,000 in revenue already if you really went after it. So taking the first step and actually setting up the business, I think a lot of times is big. I'm not saying that's always the case. Sometimes there needs to be a good amount of research beforehand. But probably then I would go and look, actually, the first thing I would do would be to try and research all of the cleaners in my area, find out how much they're charging per pane, what the standard going rate is, what are the different services that they offer. I would chat with different window cleaners, find out exactly what their value proposition is, and then find out what margins they're looking for. I would talk with them about what they would be willing to do if they didn't have to do any marketing or acquire that client, if they just went out and were actually performing the job. And then I would talk about volume discounts. So, okay, we'll start here with 60% of what you would normally make on a job. We're assuming the 40% for our marketing costs. Well, if we're able to get you more than 10 jobs in a month, would you be willing to take that to 55%? If we give you more than 100 in a month, would you be willing to do this? And really leveraging and negotiating a good deal for yourself. So creating those relationships before you've even started the business, maybe create a handful and try and find, for solar, we needed to go find several installers in each market to find out which installers were best at what. And maybe there were specific situations where we wanted to refer one over the other. Having that leverage and having multiple there allows you to drive more competitive rates. The second thing would be, so once you've got those relationships established, okay, now I need to figure out what I'm going to do as far as recruiting. Obviously, I need to have something to talk about when I go and recruit these people. So I need to figure out compensation plans. Maybe I do a tiered plan where if for your first 100 sales, you get 18%. Then between 100 and 200, you get 23%. But after anything over 300, you get 30% commissions on your sales. And you get these bonuses along the way as well. So trying to create a good program there, making sure the psychology matches the actual work that's being put in. And then thinking about, okay, who am I going after? Am I going after 18-year-old kids who are just about to go into college? What is the easiest sales pitch here? I think saying I'm trying to raise money for college is a really good one. So maybe getting, those kids that are 17, 18 years old, ready to go out and that are hungry, that want to prove themselves, that want to earn some money, that need that money. Then trying to leverage them to create a referral network so they get all their friends excited about coming and saying, hey, dude, we can make 20 grand this summer. What are you planning to do? Oh, I was going to work at the Snow Shack. They only pay $7 or $9 an hour. Yeah, you should come try that. Creating that type of mentality behind the recruiting side of things. And then just figuring out, okay, what are the systems in place here? How am I actually going to get this on the cleaner schedule? How are we going to pull in these leads? Just creating those types of systems would literally create 4 to 5 hours in one day. So this is a business that realistically could be up and running in 3 days. You probably want to create a website as well. And you can do that quickly on Wix or Weebly or something like that. And then maybe the first week you just go out and sell yourself just to really learn and understand a little bit better the value proposition. But for guys like me and you that are more established into careers, we're not going to do as well with this type of sale as some kid that's trying to earn money for college.
Great. Yeah, I can tell that. And this is one thing also listeners should be aware of, depending on your own experience. Number one, I'm feeling pretty credible with you when you say the business could be gotten started in 3 days. Let me add a couple more weeks just to be realistic. But yeah. I think that what that is from your perspective, because you started when you're 15. You've got all of this information about how businesses work and get running.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to hear you think through it and hear how it gets started and hear about what's important to you. So the listener should be aware that at the same time as it may take you a little bit more time than 3 days, it's also realistic that you can get started quickly.
Let me just share some quick insights about one of my past ventures that I started with very limited capital. I had a 2-week window to start a business. I had committed to coaching basketball, and my previous company that I was working for, they were a great company. However, I was so sold on going and starting my own business. This company owed me a lot of money still, just because I was waiting for sales to complete. And once those sales would be completed, I was going to be paid the majority of my compensation. Anyway, I left that all on the table and I said, I'm going to go start my own business. I didn't have any money in my bank account, or I think I had $2,000 in the bank account at the time, $4,500 into a line of credit that only had $10,000 available. And I told my wife, I said, I need to go to Southern Utah and sell for 2 weeks to get this business started, because I'd done the bare necessities. I created a website. I'd formed a partnership with an installer. And over the course of 2 weeks, I went down and I made $55,000 in profit, which funded the business, which allowed me to be able to go and start to. So it comes down to the intrinsic motivation of the entrepreneur that's getting it started. If they want to go out and this is something that literally your startup cost would be under $1,000. I mean, this is something that anybody could go and start if they truly wanted to, as long as they have the right systems in place. And you could go out and, I mean, if you're a decent salesman at this, you could sell a couple $1,000 a day if you get through enough doors. So just because of the price points.
I think that's a great place to wrap up here. Richard, thank you so much for sharing this idea. Again, you did a fantastic job of distilling this down to the essentials. A lot of entrepreneurs, when they're starting out, they get caught by shiny object syndrome and thinking about all these different things. So it was incredible to hear you share those timelines and the exact steps that you'd use. I thought it was very clear.
Also, I would say people get caught overcomplicating things, making them more difficult than they need to be. So
absolutely.
if I want to start a window cleaning business, I got to research what kind of cleaner to use on the windows or something, right? And that's totally off the mark, but meaning that there's other things you can think about that you can relax more, be much simpler, much quicker, much more focused. Yep.
This episode was one where we did share an idea that's very accessible to anyone out there. So listeners, please follow through on Richard's advice here. If you're looking to start a business, it's a great way to get started. Take action. Email us at update@runwithit.fm with what you did as a result of this podcast. Everyone who responds will gain access to our private Facebook group of action takers, which you'll be in great company. And one lucky listener will earn a free mentoring session with Richard and potentially a business partnership. Richard, thank you again so much for being on this podcast. Here's your chance to tell us a little bit more about Revitize or plug it. I know we talked about it a lot, but anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I mean, Revitize is, we've got clients in 27 industries. So if you've got customers that pay you money, give us a call. You can reach out to our direct line at 385-375-6434, or you can shoot me an email directly at richard@revitize.com.
Great.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Richard, and looking forward to talking with you soon.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Now it's time for you to run with it. Follow through on the action steps discussed and email a summary of what you did to update@runwithit.fm. Every listener who emails us will gain exclusive access to a private Facebook group of action takers. And one listener will earn a free mentoring session with today's guest and potentially a business partnership. Help us build the Run With It community of generous entrepreneurs. Please like, subscribe, and review us online. And remember, the secret of getting ahead is getting started.